Coming up, Russia is continuing its assault onto Ukraine. Ice sheets are falling from New York City skyscrapers, and one of our own Cardinals is ready to call it a career. All this and more as PS News starts right now. Good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm Benny Nazai.
And I'm Michael DeMarco. Let's take a look at what's happening around the world.
Oil closed above $100 a barrel Monday for the first time in more than 7 years. Oil closed above $100 a barrel Monday for the first time in more than 7 years. It comes as the Russia-Ukraine crisis continues to escalate. Brent crude oil, the world's benchmark, jumped 3.5% to $101.39 a barrel. The last time Brent closed above triple digits was September of 2014. While finishing sharply higher Monday, oil prices remain below the highest point of the current crisis. Brent topped out at $105.79 during trading last week after Russia invaded Ukraine, but did not close above $100. Meanwhile, the national average for regular gasoline in the U.S. is $3.61, up 8 cents in a week and 25 cents in a month. And diesel hit $4 a gallon over the weekend for the first time in nearly 8 years.
Invasion pummels Ukraine. Its president is asking to join the European Union. President Vladimir Zelensky signed a membership application to the EU Monday and says he is asking the EU to, quote, urgently admit Ukraine using a new procedure. He did not go into details about what that procedure might look like. He said the goal is for Ukrainians to be equal with all Europeans. More than 50,000 refugees have fled Ukraine in the days since Russia invaded.
The UN Secretary General says enough is enough when it comes to Russia's attacks on Ukraine. It's just one of Monday's many diplomatic, political, financial, military, and humanitarian developments. Emily Schmidt reports on the talks and actions as Ukraine continues to fight for its freedom. Sunday, Russian President Vladimir Putin announced he was putting nuclear weapons on high alert. A senior U.S. defense official tells reporters the U.S. hasn't seen, quote, anything specific since the announcements.
Talks between Russian and Ukraine delegations ended Monday with parties from both sides returning to their respective countries for consultations. This as the Kremlin has boosted its war efforts, with President Vladimir Putin ordering deterrent forces, including nuclear weapons, to be on high alert. Meanwhile, people all around the world are showing concern for Ukraine, including a Ukrainian church in Wisconsin. Bruce Harrison reports.
stayed behind to help the resistance. His in-laws remain as well, now hiding in a cold basement from rocket attacks.
I cannot sleep, I cannot eat, I cannot work. It's a difficult time, but we try, praying, going, try to do something.
For many people without a connection to Ukraine, the war may seem sudden or unexpected, but this flag has reminded the congregation for years of the threat of greater violence.
Ukrainian soldiers signed and sent this flag to St. Michael's in 2014. It's a large thank you note for the church's donation of supplies to soldiers after Russia invaded Crimea. 8 years later, and the church is still collecting to send aid to family and soldiers back home.
We came here, we love this place, and our love was just growing, and now we can live without this church.
And for Ovid and many here, the spiritual support is just as important as the material.
Praying, it helps us. We feel this, even our soldiers from Ukraine, they said, we feel something magical, because when you pray, you give like something power for them.
Coming up, people are coming together in solidarity with Ukraine. This and more is coming up right after the break. Stay with us.
So people should join Quake because it is the only radio station here on campus where you get to control everything. You get to have your own music. You can talk about whatever you want. I mean, this semester alone, they want to do a lot of sports shows. They also have somebody who wants to talk about true crime. Me personally, I'm big into music. Quake is one of those groups where we want diversity and we want to just have a good time.
Welcome back. Let's take a look at some news happening near you. A prayer vigil was held Saturday for the woman who was murdered in her New York City Chinatown apartment nearly 2 weeks ago. Christina Yuna Lee was headed home on February 13th when a man followed her inside and stabbed her 40 times. Organizers say Saturday's vigil was to help the community heal and find hope. The family of Lee is also raising money for charity in her honor. Relatives set up the GoFundMe for Lee a week after her death, and it has already surpassed $340,000.
Large crowds gathered at the crossroads of the world, Times Square in New York City, to protest the Russian assault on Ukraine. Saturday marks the third day of the Russian invasion, which began early Thursday. At the protest, former Kyiv resident Olga Ladygima says she hasn't been able to sleep for the last 3 nights. She says her friends back in Ukraine have been making homemade bombs to try to stop Russian tanks. Similar demonstrations described as more supportive of Ukraine than anti-Russian were held across the country on Saturday. Now coming up, a Cardinal athlete is ready to call it a career. Stay with us.
Hi, I'm Nick Putney. I am the president of esports. We have 11 different teams. We compete against schools nationwide. We also just have various kind of more casual games. We have people playing Minecraft. We have a kind of group chat of sorts where we have people just hang out and talk about games. More than anything, a community of people who kind of share similar interests.
Sports guy Jason Lynch. Let's take a look at some sports news. The International Olympic Committee has recommended Russia and Belarusian athletes be banned from all sporting events. The IOC released a statement Monday saying ban is in an effort to protect the integrity of global sports competitions and for the safety of all the participants. The committee is also urging other sporting events organizers to follow suit. The IOC says it has withdrawn the Olympic order from Russian President Vladimir Putin. Deputy Prime Minister Dmitry Chernovsky and Dmitry Kozak, Deputy Chief of Staff of the President Executive Office, has also been stripped of their titles. A Plattsburgh Cardinal veteran, athletes ready to call it a career. PSTV's own Michael DeMarco has the story.
Well, thank you so much for the story, Jason. That's all we got for sports. And now we're back here at the news desk. Thank you so much, but unfortunately, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you for joining us.
To stay up to date with PS News and PSTV programming, be sure to follow at Plattsburgh State TV on all social media platforms.
For Betty Nazai, Michael DeMarco, and all of us here from PS News, thank you for joining us and have a great night.